What's going on? It is time for week one in the NFL, folks. Welcome into another episode of Triple Coverage. I am Lance Nelson, the president of Built in Buffalo. To my right is Benjamin Shoup, and to my left is Scott Casson. Scott, how are we doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing great. We got real Buffalo Bills football on Sunday. I could not be more excited. The NFL season started off hot last night with a really good game. Give me shades of the Kevin Durant net shot. If Isaiah Likely was a 15 instead of a 14, that game probably goes to overtime or at least, 2-point conversion to try to win it. But yeah, really excited we got football and excited to preview what we got coming up this weekend.
What's up, Shoup?
Oh, nothing. Just getting ready. It's that time of the day or that time of the week where everybody's getting ready for tailgating. And since I live right next to pretty much the stadium, and there's already people out there. I mean, I was driving around a little bit earlier, around 4 or 5 o'clock. People were at Big Tree taking pictures, and they were taking pictures at the stadium. And there's already a bunch of campers out there, and it's the energy that you're starting to feel. And once it gets to Sunday, it's going to be just electric out there. I know a bunch of my buddies are excited. I know everybody else is excited as well. But it's a great time of the year. Great time of the year where everything is finally here, and got another game tonight as well. So it's going to be a good weekend for some football, and hopefully a good weekend for a Bills win. How are you, Lance?
Doing good. I'm really fired up about this matchup. Excited to get back to the stadium. Excited to be around you guys and just all of Bills Mafia and everyone. Football being here was great. I think I probably went. I don't know if I bet on the NFL last night, but I got one going tonight. So we'll see how the parlays start to roll in for the season and go that route. Still got a little magic touch on some tennis. Got Jessie Pegula to upset her opponent last night, and was able to break her serve in a couple of instances where I was able to pick that. So excited for the betting aspect too, which we'll get in a little bit later. But first of all, we'll roll through some quick thoughts here.
Yeah. So just got 3 quick things that we gonna give our quick thoughts on here, and then we're gonna get into talking more about the Cardinals coming to Buffalo for the opener here. But Bills announced this week. First thing on the slate for us is Bills announced that they're only going with 2 captains this year. Usually I believe they go with 6, right? 6 or 7. This year, only 2, and it is Josh Allen. Obviously, if it wasn't Josh Allen, I think people would be shocked. And then on the defensive side, it was Terrell Bernard, which for some people I think maybe came as a shock. I think some people may have thought Teron Johnson might have been one. Ed Oliver's been there for a little bit now too. So it's definitely been a topic of conversation. So I just want to get what your guys' thoughts are. We're going to start with you, Scott. What do you think of just the 2 captains for Sean McDermott and the Bills?
I like it a lot. One voice for offense, one voice for defense. You don't have to be a captain to be a leader on the team by any means. Like Matt Milano's never been a captain, probably never will be because he's not vocal, but he's incredibly great leader, just leading by example. So I like it a lot. Josh Allen, the unquestioned leader of the offense, has been since his rookie year, basically. And a lot of stuff that's come out about Terrell Bernard, just the kind of player he is, the kind of person he is, like how much he puts the teams first, like how much work he puts into it. I wasn't surprised that he was named a captain either. But yeah, I like it a lot. In seasons past, we've had some guys who were captains maybe just because they were veterans when maybe they weren't necessarily the best leaders on the team. I think everybody kind of knows who I'm talking about, but I like it a lot. One voice for offense, one voice for defense.
Lance?
Yeah, at the end, I believe, it's the players that vote kind of, and it was interesting to see some of their thoughts on how their votes shook out, and I saw some comments from Von Miller and things like that. And also, there's a whole leadership group around these captains. So I like Scott mentioned, if you have that one focal point for a voice, and then some other people around that they're still going to be great leaders on the team, but not necessarily with a C on their chest. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I will say I definitely was with the crowd of being shocked that it wasn't Teron Johnson, but I do get it. You get the quarterback of the offense, and then you get essentially the quarterback of the defense as the 2 captains there. And it is crazy to see just Terrell Bernard and how last year at this time people were nervous about him being the starting middle linebacker. They were nervous about him being even a player that needs to step up and be just a guy that needs to lead, and he's done a great job. And now all of a sudden, you got him as one of the two captains there. So I like it a lot. And then we do have the leadership council. I do think that the leadership council will help, and just having, I'm guessing, Tron's on that as well. Dion, a couple of the older guys there, but it's kind of just saying, hey, we got our leader on the offense, we got our leader on the defense that can they're calling the plays on each side of the ball. They're going to be the ones to lead us, and we have confidence in them. So, it's nice to see, and I think it's a good decision by McDermott and whoever else was the one that came up with this idea. So, before we get on to the Chiefs Ravens there a little bit, though, I did also want to ask you about, we did get some news today about Spencer Brown getting an extension. So offensive line now, you have your left tackle, you have your right guard, and your right tackle now locked up for until 2028, I believe. So for the next 4 seasons, you have them locked up. It was a 4-year extension. I have not seen it come out yet. I don't believe anybody else has seen it come out either. Usually, I think Izzy said that the Bills don't usually like to put that out. They usually wait for the NFL to put it out. So we'll see what happens there. But we'll start with you, Lance. What are your thoughts on the Spencer Brown extension? Do you think that it was warranted, and do you think they should have went this route?
Yeah, I will definitely like to see the money, but overall, I think he's a young foundational player that they can build around, and as long as he stays healthy, he's definitely probably going to, if he can stay healthy and kind of replicate the success he was building on last season, he can definitely be a great complement on the other side of Deion Dawkins as well. So I really think that he is super athletic, kind of really what Aaron Kromer loves in offensive linemen. And for me, I think that Spencer Brown, I was a guy that I wasn't necessarily sure they were going to commit to long term, but I'm glad there is, in all of the uncertainty around this offense, more certainty, at least in that position now for years to come.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it too. If you would have said after last year that they were going to extend him after this season, I would have said that's definitely not going to happen. But last season he was healthy and he played well. And it's one of those contracts, kind of like the Ed Oliver deal last year. Obviously, we haven't seen the money yet, so we don't know exactly what it is. But they're kind of banking on him having a good season this year, staying healthy, and then by extending him now instead of waiting until next year, hopefully saving a bit against the cap. Because if he were to, have a good season again this year, I bet that the number he would have demanded would have been much higher. So I like that they did it now. They're gambling on their guys, which they like to do, and it's worked out on most of them so far, on guys that they've kept who we drafted and developed. So excited for Spencer Brown. Hope he can stay healthy, and happy that we don't have to worry about either tackle position for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I know, this is the second straight question where all of us are agreeing, but I mean, it's hard not to. It's hard to say that, Spencer Brown, this is a bad move. Obviously, money can come out and we could automatically think otherwise, but just the way that Bean works and the way that he is with his money, I just don't see it being a number that at least upsets me to the point, as something just happened in my house. I don't know if you guys heard that. But I don't think it's going to be a number that gets me to the point where I'm going to be upset about it. Maybe it puts me on edge of like, oh, it's not great, but it's not, something I hate. It might be in the middle there. But, you get your 2 tackles, like you said, it's got locked down now for the next 4 years. You don't have to worry about it. People are always screaming about protecting Josh Allen. I still see people all the time getting upset about Josh Allen and not having good enough offensive line, even though I think last year they proved that they're a phenomenal offensive line. And I know there's some changes this year, but you get the 2 guys that were the base on the outside there from last year. You get them here. They were a crucial part of the offense. And, I think it's like I said, I don't think it's going to be a deal that we look back at and at least say, oh, that was really bad, right? It's not going to be like a Von Miller contract where we're like, wow, that was, overpay, unless he does get hurt or something that devalues him. So I like it. I think it's a good move. And, with the money that the Bills have next year, or are going to have next year, this obviously eats away at it, but it's better to get somebody that's going to protect Josh Allen long term. So let us know what you guys think about Spencer Brown and the captains in the comments there. And then the last thing before we, though, get into Lance's 1 minute and then into the actual game itself, we had a little bit of football yesterday. Like you mentioned, Chiefs, Ravens, phenomenal game, came down to literally the last play, and a half inch maybe changes the entire game. So we'll start with you, Scott. What did you think of the game? And did you think it was just the perfect start to the NFL season?
Yeah, it was a really good game. Well, a really good finish, kind of sloppy. for most of it, but that's to be expected in week one, especially early on in the season. I didn't think either quarterback necessarily played well, which was another thing to look at because everybody wants to compare Josh Allen to Lamar and Mahomes and Burrow. So there's a lot of stuff going around about some of the interceptions that were thrown, just Lamar missing some throws. So it was interesting to see that, assume those guys are going to be a little bit crisper as the year goes on because those are opponents that the Bills have in the regular season that we'll most likely see again in the playoffs. So yeah, I didn't really think either team looked great, kind of sloppy, like I said, but a really exciting finish. I was watching at a bar in the corner here in Baltimore, and when Likely scored that touchdown, it went pretty nuts, and then very quickly got very sad with a lot of just people leaving. So that was kind of fun for me. But yeah, one of those games you kind of hope both teams lose, but unfortunately that isn't the way the world works. But no, very fun, excited to watch. And then we got another one tonight in Brazil, which has had some mixed reviews, but hopefully we get a good game out of that.
What do you think, Lance? You muted.
Yep. Would help if my microphone's on, huh? I was watching some of the NFL Pro film room a little bit before, last night as the game was on, and then also Jesse Pagula was playing tennis, so I was on in the background. I didn't zero in on it. I mean, the biggest thing I took away is just the crap with the offensive line calls towards Baltimore and then lack thereof towards Kansas City. I think someone's got to figure out what they want to do with refereeing, because it can't be that lopsided where Juwan Taylor is just able to get a full step and a half back in a set before really Mahomes even gets the ball. And then, you're calling the opposing team for lining up and having illegal formation and being in the backfield. So learning moment for the Ravens tackle there, Ronnie Stanley. But overall, I'm not a big fan of how that all went down. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that aren't as well. So I think that, it was definitely a week one game where Scott mentioned just this getting the rust off and getting into some rhythms and stuff. So good to see that and good to get it out of the way. Now we're on and another game tonight, like Scott mentioned, and then Sunday is game day here in Buffalo, and we're ready to rock and roll. So
yeah, and I agree with you on the refs too. I mean, even the Spagnuolo timeout, and he ran down, and that's illegal in the NFL, and nothing came about there. It seems like there's always something that the refs were like, what's going on here? So we'll see how it is the rest of the season, especially when it comes to that rule. They made an emphasis on it, and it seemed like they made an emphasis on it at least for Baltimore last night. Not so much KC, but overall the game, I mean, it was a fun game. It kind of reminded me of that playoff game against them, mostly because of the fact that the Ravens again started the game, great drive, and then they decided, we have Derrick Henry, but we're not going to use him until the fourth quarter again. They had 4 carries, I believe, in the second and third quarter for after that first drive for Derrick Henry. It was kind of funny to see that. So we'll see how they navigate that the whole season. Obviously, the Bills are going to be right there with the Ravens for a high seed in the AFC. Same with the Chiefs as well. You kind of were back and forth on who you wanted to win, who you wanted to lose. Like Scott said, you wish both of them could lose, but unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. But yeah, overall, it was a great
in my book.
Overall, it was a great game, though, and I personally would have rather had the Chiefs win. I know a lot of people probably think that's crazy, but I'd rather have the Chiefs win. They're proven anyways. They're going to be up there anyways. They, in my opinion, also might have the overall harder division. We'll see about that. But yeah, I mean, it was a great game to open the season, and hopefully, though, we don't have to sweat as much as maybe either team did this Sunday for the Bills. So, but before we get into that, we're going to go with Lance, your 1 minute segment here, and then we'll go right into a little bit of the Cardinals preview here. So, Lance, take it over.
Yeah. So for me this week, I'm very excited for this season. One of the positions that we've been talking about kind of all off season that I'm interested to get some insight from you guys on in the comments and down below here. Just let me know. Do you think the Bills as a fan base could be sleeping on James Cook? Okay. Ray Davis comes in bringing a lot of excitement, and James Cook ran for 1,122 yards, had 445 receiving for a total of 1567. Did have some fumbles here, only 2 touchdowns on the year rushing and 4 touchdowns receiving. So 6 touchdowns total, over 1,567 yards from scrimmage. And Ray Davis definitely could be a player to come in and take some snaps away from Cook because of his ability. But I think that says more about Ray Davis than it does about James Cook. So let me know what you think. I think some of the people in the fan base here are kind of sleeping on James Cook, and I'm ready for a breakout year. So let me know what you think in the comments and down below. I appreciate it. What do you got, Ben, Scott? Who wants to jump in on that first?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I might be a part of that crowd with you, Lance. As much as I love James Cook, I think he's a great back in the NFL. I think he can be that main back for you. I'm not sure that I'm as high on him, maybe as much as maybe you are, or a lot of. I know Bills Mafia is kind of split on it. Some people are, James Cook isn't all that, and some people really love James Cook. So I think I'm kind of back and forth on it. I think he's a very, very good player. I think he's a very good running back, but I'm not 100% sold on him. Maybe even, being that guy that can consistently be both in the run game and the pass game as a 3-down back for you when it comes to the entirety of the season. I think Ray Davis will have to step up. I think Ty Johnson will have to step up and help out there a little bit. So I'm kind of back and forth on James Cook, but I definitely think as a whole, maybe people are sleeping on him in the NFL. Bills Mafia, I think, is right around what it should be, where people are still skeptical of him, but they do know that he's a very talented running back.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say the Bills fans are sleeping on him. Definitely hoping he takes a step forward. He had a solid second year last season, 1,100 yards, like had a couple games where he really went off, like that Cowboys game specifically, but he definitely needs to take his game to the next level because I think there's a really big role for James Cook in the offense this year. As we saw in the second half of last season with Joe Brady, his usage took off. So in theory, that would continue this year with Joe Brady being the OC for the whole season. Obviously, he has the catching the ball issue sometimes, kind of a fumbling issue sometimes, and he fumbles at pretty inopportune times, which makes it kind of adds insult to injury there. But yeah, if he takes all those steps forward, I think he has a chance to be a Pro Bowl level player this year. But that's it. Like, did he do that? We don't know. Apparently, he had some drops in camp. He had some fumbles in camp. So we'll see. I'm excited for him. Hoping he takes a big year 3 bump because the way Joe Brady's offense is designed, the running back's going to get a lot of carries and catch the ball out of the backfield a lot. And, if he doesn't take that step forward, like you said, Ray Davis is there and young and hungry and trying to take as many carries away as he can. And then also Ty Johnson there. He showed some flashes last season. So excited to see if he takes that next step forward, because if he does, he has a chance to be, I think, a special player.
Yeah, and I think what I saw in some of the film I was watching yesterday is like some of the blocking out in front of these guys on some of the short yardage passing and things like that the Bills used last year was just not the best. They had a lot of, 3 blockers on 4 man out there trying to make one guy, relying on Cook to make one guy miss or whatnot, and not necessarily succeeding in that regard. So I think, maybe if they do get a little more blocking like Xavier Worthy had last night, let's say, then can spring some guys like James Cook and company, further. I think they definitely did have their share of plays, but not necessarily huge 15, 20 plus yard gains. So I'd like to see a little bit more of that out of guys like Cook too. I just saw a stat too last year. He didn't have any plays in which he reached 20 miles an hour plus. So for whatever that's worth, it just to me says that he never really got that ability to break out and break the long one, because I believe he is fast enough to do that, obviously. But to me, tells me that he was having to be shifty to gain all the yards and wasn't able to be able to be running full speed straight ahead. So looking for more of that from him this year, hoping, like I said, some of the ways that they get him involved, if they can clean up and make a few more holes for him to kind of get straight ahead run and get that bigger burst of speed. I think that big play, obviously only 2 rushing touchdowns, just need to improve on that. And one of the ways I see that happening is with the blocking schemes.
Yeah, I think part of it, though, I do think is that hurts James Cook when it comes to touchdowns is the fact that you do have Josh Allen, right? I mean, he's never going to be a guy he might never be a guy that gets 10 plus touchdowns, at least in Buffalo, right? Just because of that aspect of Josh Allen runs so many in. I mean, now you do have Ray Davis in there, Ty Johnson. There's so many different ways you can put the ball in the end zone. How many touchdowns can James Cook get? I think it will be higher than 2 this year, that's for sure. Just because, again, like Scott said, Joe Brady will be utilizing him heavily. So I mean, I'm excited to see him. I hope that he can take even a better step than he did last year, but I'm not sure how close he is to his ceiling, because that to me is really the big question: is can he really take that another big step, or is he going to be just a little bit step and he's kind of what he was last year, which still I'll take any year, right? I'll take last year's James Cook, but can he take that other step to really be in that upper echelon of top running backs in the NFL? I'm not 100% sold on that just yet. Scott, you got anything else before we move on here?
Yeah, just to echo what you said, like he get all his goal line touches hawked because we had Josh Allen last year. It was Latavius Murray, kind of the same thing as Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. So I don't know if James Cook is. That's why I talk about fantasy a little bit, but I was like hesitant to take James Cook in fantasy just because unless he breaks it from maybe 10 plus yards out, he's probably not going to get a lot of touchdowns, and you can't hold that against him. It's just we have a real life Buffalo playing quarterback for us who is just a better goal line option.
Well, we'll see what happens with James Cook. It's going to be, I mean, week 1, like we said, this Sunday, we'll see how much he's utilized and how much Ray Davis is utilized compared to him, and then just what the running back room looks like in game. So excited to see that. But we're going to move on here, go into a little bit of, we're going to talk about the offense, talk about the defense versus the Cardinals offense and defense, but we're going to start with the defense. I think there's a little bit more to kind of be desired from the defense against this Cardinals offense, who this Cardinals offense, again, might look a lot different than they did last year, right? We know that the Cardinals were not a good football team last year, but you get Kyler Murray on another year of being healthy. You bring in Marvin Harrison Jr., you got Michael Wilson going into his second year, right? You got Trey McBride now going into his second year as well. So you just get a lot of guys coming in here that for the Cardinals, I think they could be a very good offense this year. So we're going to start off, though. I know, Sky, you're going to start off with you on this one because I know you really want to talk about this, and this was one that you really wanted to highlight was Trey McBride. Last year really had a phenomenal end to the season last year as the Cardinals tight end 1. What do you see with this matchup against the Bills linebackers? Does it concern you? And just what are your overall thoughts about Trey McBride versus this Bills linebacking corps?
Yeah, I don't love it. Historically, tight ends have kind of, outside of Matt Milano, because he is great in coverage, but even he got a few years by Kelsey, but so has everybody. Last season after Milano got hurt, our linebackers in coverage weren't the best. Terrell Bernard is solid. But he's just one man. So, and other teams are going to scheme against that and probably line up McBride or whoever their tight end is away from Milano. We can try to switch, but there's only so much cat and mouse games you can play. So, yeah, Dorian Williams slated in as the starting linebacker in the depth chart that came out, but we'll see who goes out there on the field on Sunday. And he kind of struggled in coverage last season, was decent against the run. Like he could definitely hit. He's definitely an athlete. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see how he looks in coverage against an all-pro level tight end maybe this year in Trey McBride. He had 800 yards last season. He was kind of the go-to option for Kyler late in the year once Kyler came back and was healthy. They have Marvin Harrison Jr. now, so I think some targets will get shifted away a little bit, but I think it's a really tough matchup for Dorian Williams in week 1, and he's going to have to show us what he can do because he has a real chance to put a stranglehold on this job because Milano coming back in December, if at all. So, yeah, a little bit nervous to how the middle of the field is going to be defended, and we got a real solid tight end coming into town in week 1. So what do you guys think? Is that something you're nervous about too? Obviously, we'll see if Dorian Williams took a step forward, and we'll find out on Sunday because he has a tough matchup.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that concerns me about Trey McBride coming in is he over half his yards were yards after the catch too. His air yards per target was 6 yards, and then yards per reception 10.2. So when I look at that, it means he's very good at catching the ball and turning upfield and getting that extra yardage. And that's what's going to hurt the Bills the most if that happens. Is the Bills do the best job in their defense when they allow the catch, but then they're able to tackle their guy right away. And Trey McBride is one of the guys on this offense that can catch it and go, not necessarily, all the way, but definitely getting some of the yardage, that can be crucial to extend drives and things like that. So I do think that McBride's one of the guys that the Bills need to focus on. And I'm wondering, how much Teron Johnson's going to see anything on him. I know that obviously if they go three wide with Trey McBride, that Johnson's going to be taken off and have to be utilized elsewhere with a slot receiver. But I wonder if they do have only two wide receivers on the field at any time. If they can try to corral him because we're not sure exactly what Dorian Williams is going to bring to the table at this point in his career, and Terrell Bernard probably not the best cover linebacker, although he did show flashes last year with snatching some balls over the middle and things like that. So I'm excited to see how this defense does align and try to bracket him, but we'll see, because they also have some pretty good wide receivers on Arizona as well, and we're going to talk about that. So it's not like they can really just focus on trying to take away McBride solely, because then they're going to be hurt. I think Dortch is pretty darn good, and obviously we'll see what Maserati Marv has in store.
Yeah, I think the other aspect for Trey McBride is just, a lot of times you talk about Kelsey and you talk about even, just the top tight ends in the league, and it's their ability when the quarterbacks get out of the pocket, them to be able to help their quarterbacks. And Kyler Murray is an agile quarterback. He's a guy that can get out of the pocket and move. How much does Trey McBride then become a factor in that aspect of the game? They're really going to have to pay attention to him, not just on regular drop back passes or just regular get the ball out quick. They're going to have to keep an eye on him all game, because I think there's going to be so much attention on Marvin Harrison Jr. in his first game. And, it's just with the run game as well. It's kind of a tough matchup I think, for this linebacking corps. It's going to be huge to contain Kyler Murray in that aspect, because I think that's really the part that Trey McBride can hurt them. Is you get Kyler Murray scrambling, you get him out of the pocket, you get the kind of the offense out of system. But if you can find Trey McBride consistently, that's really going to hurt this defense. So I'm interested to see who they match up with him the most. Like you guys said, who is it going to be? Teron? Is it going to be Dorian Williams? Is it going to be Terrell Bernard? Who are they going to really trust the most to say, hey, you're going to be guarding Trey McBride the most, or you're going to be shadowing him the most. We need to shut him down. So he's a guy, I was a huge fan of him last year, especially towards the end of last year. He was just fun to watch. Got a lot of targets. Kyler Murray's one of Kyler Murray's favorite targets towards the end of last season. And now that they had a whole offseason and even healthier Kyler Murray to build on that, it's going to be a little bit of a concern. And I think, Scott, you were right. This is the number one thing I think the defense needs to talk about, needs to worry about. So
the biggest thing I'll say before we move on, though, is that it's not going to be one man. I mean, this defense is primarily a zone scheme for the majority of the defense. And I think that, when it's coming to Trey McBride, it's going to be, by committee. I don't think there's going to be one person that's responsible solely for it. I think it's going to be a team effort. So that does give me a little bit more comfort in that, hey, this scheme lends itself to try to bottle up everyone. And like I said, the biggest thing that I see when I watch this defense is, okay, if the guy makes the catch, to make sure he doesn't get past you. And that's really the biggest thing. McBride has that capability, though, to get past people. And that's what makes him really good. And so that's really where the concern for me comes in, not necessarily if he gets his catch at 4 or 5 yards, maybe 6, whatever, and or deeper, whatever, can they just tackle him, at that spot, or will he get that yak? Because the yak stuff is definitely where my concern lies more so than anything. And before we go too much further, I just want to say, if you guys would take the time to like this episode, share it with your friends. If you can, hop over to YouTube, get in the comments, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'd really appreciate it. And then shout out to our sponsor, Buffalo Belia Sports and More. Head over to their page on Facebook and check out some great Bills player memorabilia, signed memorabilia from there. You can get into football squares. It's not just for Super Bowl. You can get in squares now for all the week-to-week games and win some cool signed memorabilia.
Yeah, one thing I'm wondering if the way the Bills are going to try to attack it is by running more dime package, kind of like what they did with Jordan Poyer in years past. This year, it'd be more of a Taylor Rapp. Like, do they bring Taylor Rapp down into the box, kind of act as a linebacker, but he's really a DB? Bring in a guy
dime
like
package, basically.
Yeah, bring in a guy like Mike Williams or Cole Bishop to be more of a safety. bring Taylor
Mike
Rapp
Edwards,
down, and then he can help cover the tight end over the middle or other receivers, and also kind of leading us into our next topic and containing Kyler Murray in the run game. That's a great way to contain a running quarterback, is to have other fast guys on the field. That's what a lot of teams do against Lamar Jackson. The Bills have done that in the past. The Chiefs have done that in the past, and it does a pretty good job of containing it. In theory, our D-line should have the advantage against their offensive line. So if they decide to run the ball on that look, could be at a bit of a disadvantage, but hopefully we can still, make plays with our D-line, and Taylor Rapp can tackle well for a safety. So wondering if they go more dime package, throw extra DBs out there so they can have a DB covering the tight end, and then also, those faster guys to chase down Kyler Murray, because he's going to want to get out in space because he's way too fast not to.
Yeah. Yeah, so that does bring us right into our next topic there of Kyler Murray, the run game, right? They brought back James Conner. You have Trey Benson there now too as well. So they have a pretty solid run game. I think, the Bills have done fairly well against running quarterbacks in the past, mostly the big one being Lamar Jackson. They have been able to contain him pretty well, but you don't have Matt Milano there, which was a huge factor against guys like Lamar Jackson and just rushing quarterbacks in general. So does it concern you guys at all? For me, I'm just going to quickly give my thoughts on it. Is, to me, just because of Sean McDermott and the way that he coaches this defense, I don't think it is going to be too much of a concern, at least when it comes to containing Kyler Murray in the run game. My main concern, though, is does this affect then the pass rush? Do they then put so much emphasis on containing him and not letting him get out that the pass rush just kind of isn't there fully for the Bills, that is at least as needed as it is? So what do you guys think? We'll start with you, Lance. What do you think of the Kyler Murray, this run game, and containing him just as a runner?
Yeah, I don't care if he's Russian or Italian or what nationality. Oh, sorry. Bad joke. But no, I think that the Bills do a really great job of containing mobile quarterbacks historically, in my opinion. So they really do a great job, like against Lamar Jackson. They've really had his number. So I think that guys like Teron Johnson are really key in that, because of what Scott mentioned. Other fast guys on the field. Teron has that speed and physicality, almost can hit like a linebacker at times, but has a speed to cover like a cornerback, cover ground as well. So sideline to sideline, and can really help if they want to kind of spy him at all, or things like that too. So we'll see what they have in store and what their plan is to contain him. But I think if they use similar means to when they are able to contain Lamar Jackson, that they can be successful.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game for the D tackles. Going to be a lot of opportunity to get pressure up the middle, because the ends, obviously, they're trying to get to the quarterback, but really they can't crash down in too hard. Like, as a defensive end against a guy like Kyler Murray Lamar, you really can't do an inside move, because he's just going to run right around you and replace you, and then he's gone. There's no one else there. So
that's tough, because you really got to get a hand press, right? And then kind of like really almost stay still for a second to kind of see what's happening, and then read and react, right?
Exactly. So it's going to be big for guys like Rousseau, Epinesa, Vaughn, Tuhill, whoever is out there, to try to set that edge and keep the contain. And they can't let themselves crash down inside, because he's just going to run right around them. So big for the D tackles, because if they can get pressure up the front and kind of get in Kyler's face and make him roll to a side, and then our guys have the edge set, like he's kind of just running right into his own funeral. So big game for the defensive tackles, big game for Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones back healthy, Dwayne Carter, you're going to see what he's got. So really excited to see what the interior of the defensive line does, because that's what's really important, containing those quarterbacks, is keeping the edge, then getting pressure in his face, and then everybody else just has to gang tackle and rally to the ball, because he's too good of a player to not break a run or two. Just got to make sure we do our best to keep it contained, which, like you said, historically, the Bills defense does a really good job of. So we'll hope that keeps up on Sunday.
The discipline, the rush lane integrity, the gap integrity of this defense has been really good, I think, in my opinion. I think that's one of the strengths of what McDermott does and brings, and now Babich as well. So I really think that, these guys are able to really prepare the linemen and the linebackers to where they can really fit in very well against a guy like this.
Yeah, and I do think, you talked about one with Trey McBride, just more dime packages. Does this even also put you into more dime packages as well? So I do think that is going to be a huge factor, is how much do you see three safeties? How much do you see three linebackers out there too? And if you don't go dime, right? If you do see, are we going to see a lot of Dorian Williams? Are we going to see a lot of, just Morrow and whoever else at linebacker, or is it just mostly going to be Terrell Bernard out there, and then you have Teron Johnson, you have Mike Edwards, you have Cole Bishop, whoever else?
Four different safeties that can come out there, yeah.
Yeah,
and without Milano, it makes it a lot easier, right, to put extra people on the field. When you have Bernard and Milano, it's like, well, who are you going to take off the field, really? And now without Milano, it kind of lends yourself to being able to do that probably more than they may have before.
Yeah, and it might even help with another guy that we're about to talk about. I'm about to get into it's Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first game, right? He's a highly touted prospect. A lot of people have been throwing the word generational around. I mean, if this was a bad quarterback draft, he probably could have gone number one. He just is that special of a player. So we've talked about Trey McBride, we talked about Kyler Murray, we talked about the run game a little bit. But what are I know this is Bill's show, but what are your expectations kind of for Marvin Harrison Jr. against this defense who, like we said, is a very good, very well-coached defense, a lot of zones, so you're not going to see a lot of one-on-one matchups with a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. So what are your expectations kind of for maybe even this defense against a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. in his first ever game? We'll start with you, Lance.
I think the safeties are going to have their work cut out for them, backing up these corners. I think that he's going to teach at least one safety a lesson or two at one point in the game. I believe he'll find the end zone at least once. And, I think the Bills can probably contain him to the 50 to 70 yard receiving yard range would be my expectation for his first game. But I do expect him to maybe get one from 30 or 40 yards.
Well, I can tell you we won't be seeing any Marvin Harrison Jr. jerseys at the game because Fanatics isn't selling them because they're in a lawsuit. Don't really know all the details, but I just think it's very funny. Yeah, he's going to be a good receiver. I don't think there's any question about that. He's a really crisp route runner. He's big. He has great body control. Some of the catches he made at Ohio State were pretty crazy. But he is just a rookie. It is just his first game in the NFL. I don't think he's going to go off by any means. And if he does, I hopefully don't have to eat these words, but I think he's going to have a solid game. He's going to be the number one option just because they don't really have anybody else who could be the number one option besides McBride, and he's a tight end. So yeah, I think he'll be solid, but the Bills have really good corners. Rasul Douglas, I think, is probably going to draw that matchup pretty often. I know the Bills corners don't generally travel with other receivers. So Benford and Douglas are both vets. They're both really solid pros. So it's not the easiest matchup for him in his first game. He's gonna have good corners who are on him. So yeah, I think he's going to have a fine game, but I wouldn't say he is game plan around this guy at all times. He is just making his debut. So he's going to be a really good player, but he's, like we were saying earlier, like Spencer Brown, nowhere near his ceiling. It's going to be his first game. The NFL is a lot different from college football, even at the level he was playing at it. So we'll see. It's going to be fun to watch. And, one day if he's in the Hall of Fame, we can say we were at his opener where he had 5 catches for 45 yards.
Yeah. I think the other aspect is when you look at the Bills against number one receivers, they generally try to focus on them compared to, especially you look at the Dolphins. Most of the time, the player that has the big game is Waddle, not so much Hill that has the massive game against the Bills, right? So you do see that emphasis. I'm curious to see if maybe because Marvin does get a little bit more attention, that it does open things up for Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch, right? Does it open them up a little bit? But yeah, I think I'll have a good game as my camera goes out here. And again, I'm AZ for some reason. I think he'll have a good game. I don't think like Lance and Scott said, I don't think it's going to be $150 and 2 touchdowns. But yeah, I think he'll get some catches, and he'll be a guy that we see kind of just maybe even more as a decoy than anything for guys like Michael Wilson and Trey McBride. So it's awesome. Like you said, Scott, it's going to be cool to be able to say that you were at we were at the first game, or at least if you're not going to the game, you got to see his first game ever. Because I think a lot of people, I mean, I included, I'm there. I think he's going to end up in the Hall of Fame one day, right there with his dad, and be a phenomenal player in this league. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it. I'm excited to see it, see what happens there. But yeah, I think the Bills in general do put a lot of emphasis on that star number one receiver. As long as Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't beat us on a Hail Mary again, like DeAndre Hopkins has done, I'm fine with it. So we'll see what goes on there. Any last thoughts, though, on Marvin Harrison?
Yeah, I think the Bills are also going to be physical with him at the line, which is something that a lot of college cornerbacks couldn't do because, one, they're not big enough, and two, they're not good enough technique-wise to, like, not miss and then have just whiff. Like NFL cornerbacks aren't going to do that. So I don't know if he came off press that much in college. Most of the games I watched, he didn't. He had a lot of free releases just because he was getting so much space. So be interested to see how he adjusts to that. Like he's obviously going to be a very good player, but I think the Bills are going to get pretty handsy with him like they do with most other receivers, throw off the timing.
Before I get to my last question, actually, I do have a quick question, real quick. Just want your quick thoughts on this one. Do you think Kyrie Elam plays a factor in maybe guarding Marvin Harrison, right? He was a guy in college that was known to get handsy, known to be physical. He's got speed, so he can stick with him. Do you think that Elam kind of plays a factor, even though he's not number 1 or 2 on the depth chart?
Yeah, I think he's definitely got a chance. He's going to get in some rotational snaps in there and give guys breathers when they need it, or if someone, gets, bangs a knee with someone or whatever, and needs a break. I think Elam's definitely going to be in there and be a factor. And just before we move on from Harrison too, I will say that, this defense was 7th overall in pass yards per game, at 196.6. So passing defense is really kind of one of their strengths. So I'm not super worried. And I want to just mention before we move on to anything here is we got to watch out for James Conner, Trey Benson in that Arizona run game, first and foremost too. So there is a lot of elements here for the Bills defense to look at, but we talked a lot about what they're going to do in the pass game, and really the pass defense is the Bills' strength in my mind. So, I'm more concerned that the Bills really need to make sure that they're not running it down our throats all day, and that they're able to contain that and force them to pass. Now, I think there's going to be a want to throw the ball from Kyler and the gang, but I do think that their best shot at this is to hand that ball off and really test the Bills in the running game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more concerned about the Cardinals running the ball on us than passing the ball. Kyler Murray is just not the best passing quarterback either. Tends to be inaccurate. He forces some stuff. But yeah, that's I think if there is a blueprint for how the Cardinals win this game is they control the line of scrimmage, which on paper they shouldn't be able to do, but that's why they play the games. And then they run the ball and keep Josh Allen off the field, because that's same thing the Bills tried to do to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs last year, is just keep him off the field. And that's what teams who aren't as good as teams like the Bills will try to do. So, yeah, James Conner is a solid running back. He's a veteran, had over 1,000 yards last year for the first time in his career. So, yeah, I think that they try to establish the run, and hopefully the Bills make it so they can't. We force Kyler to throw the ball. It's the same thing as we say about Lamar. The way to beat him is you make him play quarterback, and then everything should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, you saw that a little bit last night with Lamar struggling to throw the ball. But with all of this being said, right, we talked about run game a little bit. We talked about Kyler Murray. We talked about Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison, everybody. Who is going to be the defensive MVP, win or lose? Who to you guys is that guy that you say is going to have the best game on the Buffalo Bills defense on Sunday? Scott, we'll start with you. Who do you got?
I say Ed Oliver. Like I said earlier, pass rush from the interior is going to be huge. So if they can do a good job of keeping Kyler Murray in the pocket, he could just kind of luck into a sack or two, just from keeping him contained, being right place, right time. And then, like we said, stopping the run. That starts with Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones in the middle. Daquan Jones is going to eat some blocks, and then Ed Oliver can make the plays. So I'm going with Ed.
Yeah, I'm going to go with TB, the captain, Terrell Bernard, and his run fits and things like that. When these defensive linemen are asked to just stay in their lane and just force people towards the linebacking core and force Bernard to make the tackle. Can he do it? And then can he be, a force over the middle to stop a guy like Trey McBride as well? So I think Terrell Bernard overall will be the MVP.
I'm going to go with a guy who I thought would be the captain of this defense that I said a little bit earlier. I'm going to go with Tron Johnson. He's asked to do a little bit of everything. He is arguably the best player on this defense when everybody's even healthy too. He's a game changer. He's a baller. He's a guy that I think in the NFL is not talked about enough. I know he got all pro second team last year, but man, he's a game changer. He is a guy that when they did end up giving him that extension, I was super happy about it. So I think he'll come up huge, whether it's against Trey McBride, whether it's against Marvin in the slot, whatever it is. So I do think it's going to be a big game for him. Let us know what you guys think, who you guys think is going to be the defensive MVP. But that does bring it to the time for my 1 minute segment here. So I'm going to go ahead and take it over. All right. So mine this week, talked about getting ready for the game. It's opening week of the NFL. So I just wanted your guys' thoughts on what your favorite part of not just opening game day, but just opening week in the NFL, right? There's a lot of fantasy drafts going on. People start betting more if you don't bet. You got the opening game, obviously, tailgating. There's the afterwards when you're just watching night football, Sunday night football, Monday night football, whatever it is. So what is your guys' favorite just part of opening week? Mine's going to be real simple. I'm just going to go with the fact that, that Sunday morning when you wake up, it's back. And it's just that it's like being a kid on Christmas, right? You're just ready for it. You're ready to see the guys in pads. For the Bills, obviously, we haven't been able to see it at 1:00 on Sundays past little bit, especially last year. This year we do get to see it, so it's going to be fun. I'm excited to see it. And it's just, the air, it's something in the air smells different. So, so what do you guys think? Let us know down below what your guys' favorite part of just opening week in the NFL is.
For me, it has to be just like you said, football being back. Like, I love football. There's no other season like it. There's no other sport like it. I watch every other sport, and I love every other sport. But football, there's just something different about it. And kind of like you hinted at, from the whole experience. So you wake up at 6 a.m. It's socially acceptable to start drinking. That's a win. You get to the stadium, you tailgate with your friends. Some people you only see at Bills games. There are people who only exist to me at Buffalo Bills games. I don't know what they do outside of there, but I see them because we sit around each other, we tailgate near each other, we hang out. I don't even know some of their names, but I see them at every Bills game, and we talk like we're best friends. And then, you watch the team play, which recently has actually been fun because they've been good, which is a nice twist that, we weren't used to for a while. So it's just a ton of fun, just getting to go to the stadium, hanging out with your friends, watching the game. And then I'm a nerd, so I come home after and watch the film. And which is also fun, just seeing what actually worked versus what you thought worked when you were in there. So there's just nothing else like it. And I'm very excited for Sunday.
Game day chicken wings got to be my favorite thing. Last year we were over with Game Day Hospitality, and thanks for having us last year to those guys. They had some fresh wings being cooked up each and every week. And then this year we got almost the pinnacle of Buffalo. We're going to be at the Big Tree Inn. So if you are around the stadium, come say hi to us. We'll be in a big 10x10 monster tent over at the Big Tree Inn. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get my hands on some of those chicken wings on Sunday morning. Chicken wings for breakfast is always an enjoyable thing, as much as, drinking beers for breakfast is mentioned, Buffalo traditions and things. Chicken wings and blue cheese, having that for breakfast is something I'll cherish until my body gives out on me to not allow me to do that anymore. So that's the one thing I'm already looking forward to, getting my order in early and getting some fresh Big Tree Inn chicken wings. So, if we want to grab a couple of comments here, I got a couple things. We're going to get in now to the offense, and just spin coming in on the defensive side of the things. Hopefully Bishop by the end of the year. I think so. We're used to the safeties being kind of the stars of this defense, and they're not this year. So it's interesting to see, and hopefully, that rookie draft pick can make waves. What do you guys think of that thought, though, of Bishop eventually trying to become nearly, or try to, and game by game it can change, but being the MVP of the defense? how far off do you see that as a possibility?
I mean, I do think it's wishful thinking more than anything, just because of the talent on this defense. Now, if we were the Cardinals, right? If we were the Cardinals and we were a team that is rebuilding and just kind of getting those pieces together, I might say it's more of a logical thought. I just think with the talent on this defense, with I think how he's going to start a little bit slower in the season as a whole, I think it might be tough for him to be the MVP. I think he can have games where he's the MVP, though. I think that's definitely for like a huge possibility. You know, he could have some massive games, but just with how many safeties they have, with how good of a defense this is, and how many stars they have on the defense, I just think it's going to be tough for him to really set it apart. You know, maybe though he does end up having a season like Kyle Hamilton did his rookie year and just kind of really shows out. But I just think it's going to be tough for him to kind of come in right away and just be that guy. I hope he does, but I think it's going to be a little tough.
Yeah, especially with missing almost all of training camp, really. Like, he didn't get the preseason reps. He didn't play in any preseason games. He's only just getting back into like practice full go in the past like week and a half or so. So I think he does have a solid rookie year, but it's just going to be delayed. He definitely would have been in the mix to be one of the starters at safety, especially with who we did are ending up looking like we're going to start. But he just got delayed, which unfortunately set him back, which isn't ideal. But yeah, I think by midway through the season he'll be a contributor, and then maybe by the end of the year he could be a starter. Kind of the same thing with Mike Edwards coming off an injury as well. I think he's another guy who by the end of the year is maybe starting or fully in the rotation. So yeah, we'll see how much playing time he gets, but I think it's going to be one of those things that it like ramps up as the season goes on.
Yeah. I do want to shout out Andrew here, though, who says, see you at the tree. Got long travels from Colorado tonight. Shout out Andrew. I know, Scott, I know you're traveling tomorrow morning as well. A lot of people are traveling. I saw a lot of people not from Buffalo that were here, but it's awesome to see, man. Yeah, be sure to come up, say hi to us, and let us know that it's awesome to see. So shout out you,
Yeah,
Andrew.
one thing I'm looking forward to, I think, is like getting that, camper lot style back in, because, once the new stadium can be finished, the old one, I'm assuming, is going to be turned into a parking lot and things like that. And we can start getting people, because it's like used to be you'd come down on a Thursday night or whatever, set up camp, and then, it would be a kind of a party throughout the weekend and whatnot. And looking forward to getting that vibe back here down Orchard Park. And I know people still find areas to do it, but it's just more fun when it's right outside the stadium as well.
Yeah. But that does bring us, though, into kind of, we talked about the defense, we talked about, what we expect from this Bills defense. We're going to talk about a little bit about the offense now, though. And, we also have been talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. Last night, we saw Xavier Worthy, obviously have 2 touchdowns. You can say what you want about that. We're not going to deep dive into Xavier Worthy. We're going to deep dive into Keon Coleman, right? Keon Coleman, it's rookie receiver year. We've already been talking about it a lot, but he's the one that a lot of people are going to be looking out for in Buffalo, more so even than Marvin Harrison Jr. when it comes to Sunday for the Bills fans. So just what are your expectations for him? For me, I'm just going to say it quick. I don't have the biggest expectations for him. I have maybe a couple grabs, 2-3 catches, not really, a major yardage. I think it's going to be tough for him to get going heavily. If he does, that's awesome. I could see him making a couple highlight plays. He's just, like we said, freak athlete that can really just go up and make a play. But I don't have a huge expectations for him. Maybe a couple catches, 2-3 catches, maybe 4. But I don't see anything like close to really 70, 80, 90 yards. That'd be awesome. But that's what I'm thinking. So we'll start with you, Lance. What are your expectations for Keon Coleman?
I expect at least one catch to wow people. I hope, I think they're gonna, the way Josh Allen plays, the way he will get in, we know he's gonna get into the scramble drill a few times here and there. And I was just really excited the way I saw he and Josh connect during training camp, during the scramble drills. And I think that is going to be one of the biggest things for Keon, is being on the same page with Josh as he breaks the pocket and things like that, and then being able to get the separation at that point when the play may break down. And that may be his biggest asset in this offense is, who's Josh going to look at when things break down, and he can make sure he navigates them to the open spots in the defense. And if there are no open spots, Keon's kind of that guy that he says, heck, he's out there somewhere and they throw it up and he's going to catch this thing. And, that guy that we have at quarterback can put the ball in just about any spot he wants. So that's the biggest thing for Keon, is that I'm really looking forward to, seeing how Josh Allen can kind of use that catch radius, and I expect at least one good play, and hopefully he'll find that in the end zone as well and get his toes down, unlike likely.
Yeah, you mentioned Xavier Worthy. People loved him last night, but he scored, he touched the ball 3 times. It's not like he was getting open all night. He scored on a blown coverage where they essentially just let him run down the sideline by himself. Lance, you could have caught that ball.
I could have thrown him that ball too.
And then the end around, no one touched him. He's very, very fast, but it's not like he did anything that anybody else in those situations wouldn't have done. The one ball that was, exactly. The one ball that was thrown to him contested did not go well for him, but it's not a comparison, and it shouldn't be, because they're in different roles with very, very different play callers, as you mentioned.
And completely different skill sets.
Yes. So Keon Coleman, I don't expect him to have a big rookie year, go off, be the number 1 receiver, but the Bills don't need him to be. I expect him to be a solid rotational guy who maybe can build up to that number 1 role over time, just based on his skill set and his size. So Josh Allen, I mentioned, you alluded to it too, Lance, Josh said he's a player with the kind of skill set that he's never really had. He's that big body, can make the contested catches, can go up and get it, can kind of box guys out in the end zone. That's why he's such a good red zone target. The kind of guy that if it's 3rd down and you got to throw it to when someone isn't necessarily open, he's going to give you a good chance to complete the catch. And if he doesn't catch it, it's surely not going to get intercepted, because he's going to at least go up and fight for it. So I think expectations for him kind of the same as what I said for a guy like Marvin Harrison. Probably a little bit less, just because he's going to get a lot less targets. But I don't know, 3-4 catches, 30 to 40 yards, something like that. And like you said, he's probably going to be a red zone target. And one of my future bets this season is him over 4.5 touchdowns. So that'd be cool if he got one of those in the end zone. But yeah, I think everybody just has to kind of not get carried away with expectations for Keon Coleman, because he's not going to be asked to be the number 1 receiver. So just be patient with it, and don't compare it to anybody, because the Bills got our guy, and that's who they were taking no matter what. So it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, definitely saved money when they got him and got that extra pick and still landing him. So I'm excited about that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be awesome to see him out there. He's going to experience the Mafia for the first time, and I think he could definitely can, like Lance said, make a big splash play and make a play that everybody just sits back and is like, I am glad we have this guy, and kind of maybe shut up the worthy talk a little bit, right? I know, like you said, Scott was going a little bit crazy last night. 2 touchdowns, that'll do it for sure. But again, how much of that was really Andy Reid drawing up phenomenal plays, blown coverage? Not saying Xavier Worthy is like a bad player or anything. It's just, again, we don't know. It's 1 game into his career. Let's tone it down a little bit right there. But we'll see how Keon Coleman does. I'm excited to see him. So next question here. I know, Lance, we're going to start with you on this one, since you're really excited for this one as well. It's just biggest matchup. What matchup do you look at when you're looking at the offense, Bills offense versus this Cardinals defense? Cardinals defense isn't exactly the best of the league, but which one are you really looking at when you're looking at this Bills offense?
Yeah, one of the things I put together last night, it's just 3 plays, and he didn't have many more touchdowns because he was hurt for some of the year. But I want to look at Dawson Knox a little bit, and I'll apologize because it doesn't get bright right away, and by the time the play happens, it's already there. But Knox finds an opening here on a block, and then Allen scrambles around and finds him. They're good friends too, which is a good story. And then here's the next one against the Dolphins defense. Knox finding a way to get in the end zone in the flat and just running over a guy. His tenacity, if he's healthy, I think he's a legit weapon in this offense. And I think just the way the Baltimore Ravens showed that they can have 2 tight ends have success, this team can definitely. And there's a nice route from Knox there on a pure passing route. So the big thing is the way that Baltimore was able to display to you how to use two tight ends last night and how to have success with two of them is the same way I think the Bills can go. I don't think that you can really count out Dawson Knox in the passing game just because we have Dalton Kincaid. I really think that both of them are going to be important to this offense. And with the lack of high-end wide receivers, I think that lends yourself more to the usage of those tight ends. Breaking down the middle of the field. Dawson Knox, kind of, both guys can go outside a little bit as well, but really trying to see how they stretch and manipulate the middle of the field with those guys who can hopefully be kind of the possession, run people over type of guys for Josh Allen in those quick hitches or the quick outs and things like that in this offense.
Yeah, I'll talk about it in my 1 minute, but I also have Dawson Knox anytime touchdown score as one of my picks this week. He is the third most red zone touchdowns over the last 3 seasons behind Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. So he is definitely a guy that Josh Allen likes to go to in the red zone. Kind of like we were talking about with Keon Coleman. He's big. Josh trusts him. He knows he can throw it up to him, and he might not catch it, but it's not going to get picked. So, and with some of the coverage maybe rolling more to Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid, we could, get Dawson Knox matched up on someone that should not be matched up on Dawson Knox just because they got, other dogs out there. So, but the matchup I'm most excited to see, just the Bills offensive line versus the Cardinals defensive line. I know I'm cheating by picking like 10 guys, but the Cardinals run defense was worst in the NFL last season by a pretty good margin. The Bills offensive line, pretty much the same guys as last year, but a little bit different. We got David Edwards coming in to play left guard, Govern moving over to center. So it is going to be a bit of a different look. So the Bills should be able to establish the run. And in a game that they should be winning in, run the ball a lot, maybe in the second half, ice a lead, but at least, win at the line of scrimmage. So it's a really good opportunity for this Bills offensive line to have a first game together against the team that on paper is still very, very bad against the run. So I'm hoping that they can dominate the line of scrimmage, get good holes open for James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, whoever they're handing the ball off to, and kind of establish the game on the ground because the Cardinals' run defense is terrible.
Right, and the Bills led the league in EPA per rush last year, like you mentioned, Arizona, not very good. So I'm excited to see how the Bills running game and like I mentioned in my discussion earlier is that the way these guys can open up lanes for James Cook and others, and now Curtis Samuel is going to be really interesting and fun to see.
Stop stealing all my bets.
Well, speaking of stealing, Scott, you unfortunately did steal what my matchup that I wanted to talk about was, but I wanted to more talk about the interior offensive line, see how that kind of plays out. So I'm going to call an audible here. I'm going to go a little bit different, and I'm going to count him as the offense just because I do think this is something I want to see. I want to see how Tyler Bass is this weekend. I want to see how he is in front of the Bills crowd, how he is from all over the field, from left, right, hash, what he does, even in the kickoff, see what his strategy is. Is he just going to boot it through the end zone, or are they going to try to give returns? So I'm going to count him as that just because, like I said, Scott pretty much covered what I was going to cover there with the offensive line, but I'm interested to see. I'm going to count him as offense just because he does put points on the board. How does Tyler Bass do? What is his mindset? This is a game that hopefully he just has to kick extra points. At least if he does have to kick field goals, they're non-important ones. They're not ones that are going to cost the game, but we all know that one missed field goal can make a game completely different there. So I'm curious to see him. He's been a guy that I've been pretty hard on this summer, I think, especially even in camp when it comes to just the expectations. I still think he's a very good kicker. I just think there's a lot going on in that head of his. I rightfully so for him. I mean, I think it's being a kicker in this league, especially on a good team. The pressure is crazy. So I'm interested to see how he does, if he does miss a field goal at all, or even when he does make them. How is he? Are they close? Are they tailing off? Are they almost just squeaking in? What is he kind of feeling like out there? Just kind of interested to see him. So I guess that's going to be the matchup that I'm curious to see. Is not really even a matchup, just Tyler Bass in general.
One
Yeah,
matchup I want to get both your guys' feelings on, though, is Curtis Samuel lined up in the backfield and all over the field, getting the ball in many different ways. And how do you see his usage and how much success do you see from him tomorrow or on Sunday?
I think he has a good game. It's another one of my bets, which I'm going to get to. His over in receiving yards, it's comically low. But yeah, I think he has a good game. Like I was watching an interview with him, and he even joked, he's like, even we don't know what we're going to do yet because he can line up so many different places. And it's something we've talked about is like every guy in this Bills offense can be lined up somewhere that's a mismatch. Like they can put Curtis Samuel in the backfield and get him lined up at a linebacker, and he's not fast enough to cover. They can put him out wide. They can put him in the slot. They can get him matched up just about anywhere, and almost like running a pick and roll in basketball when like the Warriors will get the big clunky Lithuanian center guarding Steph Curry on a pick and roll. Like that's essentially what the Bills offense is going to be able to do with all of these different guys. So I think Curtis Samuel's going to line up all over the field. He might not line up in the same spot 2 plays in a row, and they're going to be really creative how they get him the ball, whether it be screens, whether it be a traditional route, whether it be just handing it to him, whether it be pitching it to him or something like that. So I am really excited to see how they use him. I think it's going to be really fun to see all the different places that he, Shakir, Kincaid, and Cook specifically line up.
Yeah, I think he could end up being a guy that becomes maybe not the number one option in the offense, just a guy that the defense has to worry about the most because of what you just said, Scott. He can do pretty much anything you really ask of him. He can fly down the field. You can use him in the backfield. You can use him on pitches. You can get the ball in his hands on a screen, really just a little bit of anything. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do use him. And it is funny that he said that he doesn't even know himself how they're going to use him or how the offense is going to be working. But he's a guy that I think could end up having a better season than Khalil Shakir. Could end up having a better season. Could end up being the best receiver on this team when it comes to statistics because of just the different ways that he is used. So I'm really excited to see him. I mean, there's a lot. This offense, that's the thing, is there's so many guys in this offense where I feel like in years past, it's been, okay, we're excited to see what the defense is going to do. Who's going to step up on the defense? What's going to happen? Last year it was Terrell Bernard was the big guy that we're going to watch, right? This year with the offense, it's not just, oh, yeah, we know we got Josh, we got Diggs, we got last year, I guess it was a little bit Kincaid, but really weren't high expectations for him either. You had Davis, you knew who it was. This year, there's so many different guys. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir stepping up into a bigger role. Is Kincaid going to take another step? Dawson Knox, like Lance said earlier, like there's just so many guys, and he's one of the guys that I think is going to be a major part of this offense, and a guy that the defenses might even have to worry about the most outside of number 17 on this Bills offense. So I'm excited. Let us know what you guys think about him in the comments. Let us know what you guys think about everything in the comments. If you do have something, we'll throw some of the comments up here as well while we're talking. But that does bring us to the last question here. We did have another one, but kind of answered it as we were going on. So I'm just going to get to the last one here. We talked about defensive MVP. And we're going to discount Josh Allen. Josh Allen's not allowed for this next question, okay? That's just going to be said because I feel like all of us would pick him. Who is your offensive MVP outside of Josh Allen Sunday for the Buffalo Bills? We'll start with you, Scott.
I'd say James Cook. I think, like I said, the Cardinals' run defense is bad. They try to establish the run early. They get him involved. I think he goes for close to 100 yards in a game in which they should have the lead. Interested to see him out of the backfield, catch a couple balls, get him in space, get him over 20 miles per hour. Lance will be doing that, and at the tailgate, we'll time him with the radar gun if anyone wants to come watch. So yeah, I think James Cook is going to have a good game. So I think he'll be the MVP of the offense.
I'll be eating 20 wings an hour over at the big tree, but
I didn't say where you were running. It could be to the bathroom, but you'll be running.
Maybe. Offensive MVP not named Josh Allen for me. I think it's going to have to go to the offensive line. If that's a cop-out, I apologize. But I think as a group, the offensive line, you guys mentioned how important they are. If I have to single out a guy, I'll say Connor McGovern, and just his ability to, keep things clean, keep the communication, keep everyone in line with where they need to be and what their responsibilities are. reading the defensive alignment with Josh Allen and getting that communication back and forth to get these guys in their block schemes. I really am excited to see how that finally plays out.
I'm going to also kind of go, I guess, with the cop-out answer, and that's going to be Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady, I know he's not a player, but I think he's going to be the offensive MVP outside of Josh Allen. I think just now it's a full off season with people learning, with everybody learning his system. He brought in more guys that he's going to want to use, like we said, with Curtis Samuel, right? I just think he's going to call a fantastic game against a defense that you should be able to call a fantastic game against, because you can't really go wrong, I feel like, in too many areas, right? This defense is not that great. So I think Joe Brady's going to have a phenomenal game, and he'll be my offensive MVP for this week outside of Josh Allen, because as we all know, Josh Allen will most likely be the actual offensive MVP for this Buffalo Bills team this Sunday, unless it's James Cook on the ground, unless we're a heavy game against like the Dallas game last year. We'll see though. But yeah, we did see spin there. He had Kincaid. That was one that I was also thinking about doing. I think Kincaid will have a big game, but there's just I think it's going to be a pretty well-rounded game from everybody. So we'll see there. But before we get into our final predictions, we do have 3 quick predictions. We're going to hand it over to Scott here. I know he's been kind of giving you guys hints at what his topic this week is, but we're going to officially now hand it over to Scott for his 1 minute.
Yeah, going to talk to you guys about some bets I like, some prop bets in the Bills game this week. I'll also have a blog coming out on the Built in Buffalo site, so be on the lookout for that. I'm 9-1 so far this season to start college football, and 1-0 in the NFL with the Chiefs -3 last night. So off to a hot start, so we're going to try and stay hot. So I like 3 bets for the Bills this week. First one, Josh Allen over 1.5 passing touchdowns. The Cardinals gave up the most passing touchdowns of any defense in the league last year. They gave up 32. And against a quarterback like Josh, I think that he'll throw 2. There's a little bit of juice. It's -148, which I don't love and generally won't give you, but it's the first game of the season. You have to see one go through. We got to win one first so we can get hot and establish some momentum going forward. Next one I like, Curtis Samuel over 29.5 receiving yards. That's at -113. That feels really low to me. He could do that with 1 catch. Heck, he could take a screen 30 yards. I think he gets at least 3 or 4 catches at least, and that should get him over that 30-yard mark. And then the last one, like I said, Dawson Knox, anytime touchdown score, +430. So that's the big one. If we hit that, we're eating steak. We're eating steak if we hit that one. So like I said, 3rd most red zone touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Josh Allen loves throwing him the ball in the red zone. He's a comfortable target that he trusts. And when the coverage rolls more towards Kincaid, Coleman, somebody else, could leave Dawson Knox in a mismatch. So those are the 3 I like. Don't parlay them together. Parlays are for suckers. That's how Vegas makes all their money. Take all 3 of them separately, and then if we go 2-1, we're making some money. So go Bills, and let me know how everybody does.
Oh, muted.
That's what I'm doing wrong. I love a good parlay. That's how you get all the odds, man.
But I win more money.
Yeah, well, last week in my college picks, I went 4-1. If I would have parlayed all those together, I lost money. But I
did. I'm an idiot.
I know. You parlayed them together and said, we were
I was 1 away.
But if you parlayed 4 out of the 5, you could have won.
I know, you got to pick and choose there. It doesn't work that way. I agree. Good bets. I definitely like the. I'd like to take the anytime touchdown scorer for either or both separately. Cook and Kincaid. Those 2 guys didn't score a ton last year, and I feel like the odds will be good enough to throw a little money on those guys to find the end zone, because I just think like in this offense now, they may get a little more time around there and may be able to find it a little more frequently than they did last year.
Yeah, I looked at their odds. I think Kincaid was like +130 and Cook like +115. So like the odds really weren't that great for guys like you said who don't score a lot of touchdowns. So to me, the Dawson Knox at +430 was just like way better value.
Oh, absolutely. Dawson Knox, anytime touchdown is always a good bet as long as he's healthy. Tonight's game coming up here, I did do a little same game. I took the Packers money line, and then I got Devontae Smith and Josh Jacobs to score touchdowns, and a little bit of Now I have to remember what receiver I took. I took one of the AJ Brown over. His receiving yards was pretty low, actually. It was in the 40s, maybe the 50s, and I hit the over on that as well. So
just remember, though, as Scott always says, if you win the bet, you can thank us, or well, thank them. If you lose the bet, it was not gambling.
On you, brother.
Yeah, if you win really big, you want to share some with the guy who told you, like, hey, I'm just saying.
But all right, well, we got 3 more things though before we finish up here. We do our quick thoughts at the beginning of the show. This is kind of just like our quick thoughts to end the show here. 3 quick predictions here. We'll start off with the Buffalo Bills record. We'll go left to right for this one. Scott, what do you got for your Bills record prediction?
11-6.
11-6.
I'm gonna go 12-5.
I'm going to go 10-7. I just think with this schedule, it's a little tough here. So we're all over. I know. People might call me a fake Bills fan, but I think it's a tough schedule this year. So we'll see, though. But I was between 11-6 and 10-7, but I could see the Bills going 13-4 for all we know. It's just one of those seasons where I'm not quite sure what to expect. So there's record prediction. How about MVP of the league? This time we'll go right to left. Don't worry, Lance. You'll get the first prediction for the next one. I'm going to go quick, though. You may not have liked my Bills record, but you'll like my MVP. I am going Josh Allen. I just think this is the year that he finally gets it due to the fact that he has, quote unquote, no weapons, according to the rest of the NFL. So I'm going to go with Josh Allen.
I think he did enough to get it last year. He didn't. I think he gets it this year for sure. Whenever you ask me this question at the beginning of a season and he's still our quarterback, my answer will be Josh Allen. And you can call me a homer. I don't care. He's the best player in the NFL. That's not named Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, a lot of people saying, like you said, Josh Allen has no weapons, not going to have a good year, blah, blah, blah. He has the second best odds to win the MVP. So Vegas thinks he's going to have a very good year. With that said, my MVP pick is Matt Stafford.
I like
plus
that
3,
one.
Plus 3,000. If you want to sprinkle a little bit on there, that'd be a nice payday. Plays a lot of games in domes this year. Another one, kind of a bonus bet pick. I think his odds are pretty high. Jared Goff plus 2,500, plays 14 out of his 17 games in domes this year, so doesn't really have to go out into the elements. So, but Stafford is the pick I'm staying with. Goff is just a fun one for the kids.
I like that one. But that brings us to our final prediction, and that is Super Bowl prediction. Lance, we're going with you to start this one. What do you got for your Super Bowl prediction?
I got Goff in the game. I got Lions versus Bills in the Super Bowl. So,
do you have a winner?
Yeah, of course. The Bills are going to win the Super Bowl, Ben, obviously.
Well, I will say I have seen a lot of Lions-Bills, but Lions over Bills from people around the NFL. So
I'm never going to pick the team to lose if I'm going to get them there.
That's true. That's fair enough. So, Scott, what do you got for your Super Bowl prediction?
Well, first of all, the people from Detroit and Buffalo being in New Orleans, of all places, for a weekend, that city has seen a lot of stuff. But I don't know if it's seen anything like that. There might be a lot of people that just live there after that weekend if their team wins. Unfortunately, I have the Chiefs going back to the Super Bowl from the AFC. Bet against Patrick Mahomes way too many times, and I told myself I'm not going to do it anymore, and hopefully I listen. I started last night, and I won. And then from the NFC, I'm going to go with the Packers. Been also kind of a popular pick, really hinges on what Jordan Love can do this year. Can he take that next step after his good 8 games that he had last season? But I think they have a pretty good team around him. So, yeah, Chiefs, Packers, and then hopefully the Chiefs don't win again. So I'll go with the Packers, but that's just because I don't want the Chiefs to win again.
I also have 2 teams that have been there before and won it recently. First one being the Chiefs. I'm with you there, Scott, and it's just hard for me to say that it's not going to be them after seeing the past 2 years. Even the past 5 years, just seeing them. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs from the AFC. NFC, you had Matt Stafford as your MVP. I have the Rams being the team from the NFC. I think, they made some weird moves this offseason, but they still have some young guys that I think can take steps. They still have Matt Stafford, who has proven to be a phenomenal NFL quarterback. They have some great weapons over there with Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, if he can stay healthy. So yeah, I think the Rams have a pretty good shot. They got a solid coaching staff over there. And I'm going to, again, just pick the Rams, same reason as you, Scott, picking the Packers. I just really don't want the Chiefs to win it again and three-peat and be the first ever teams in the at least the Super Bowl era to three-peat. So I got Rams over Chiefs. So let us know what you guys think down below. But I do believe that is pretty much it for us. You got anything else before we hop off here? I got nothing else besides just a classic Go Bills as well. So, Scott, anything?
I'll give you one college pick like I did last week. Alabama hit that over against Western Kentucky by themselves, so you're welcome. My pick of the day tomorrow in college is Texas. Right now it's at -7. They're playing Michigan. I don't think Michigan is that good this year. They don't really know who their quarterback is. Texas basically brought everybody back besides those two receivers. So I like Texas going into Ann Arbor and covering that 7 number. It's bounced anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5. So if you see it at 6.5, jump on it, but I still like it at 7 as well.
Yeah, and we thank you for tuning in to the Triple Coverage Podcast. We're going to be back to our normal 8 o'clock start time next Friday. So be sure to catch us here on the Built-in Buffalo Network. Catch all the great Built-in Buffalo content creators. And next week, we're actually going to be a post-game show, as we have 2 games now in between the 2 shows. And we'll be wrapping up the Bills versus Miami next week on our show with all of what happened. Maybe give you a little bit of what happened in this game. I'm sure it'll be over talked about by then. So we're going to be focused on Miami a little bit and not really get a chance to lick our wounds or pump our chests for what we got right. So till then, be safe out there. Be sure to catch all the great creators and stuff that's on social media in the Built-in Buffalo Network. I put in the chat here, the builtinbuffalonews.com, and Coach is coming in with 34-10 Bills win. I like it. We did not do a score prediction this week, and we will not get one for the Miami game either. So we'll have to put something out and maybe record a little something to give you guys for that. So with that being said, appreciate everyone, and go Bills.